Um, I'm going to go ahead and put the spotlight on you because you're our wonderful speaker today, Beth.
Thank
I will turn the
you.
time over to you since your time is short today.
All right. Yes. Sorry about the mix up with the time zones. Totally on me, though. That is not the first or second time I've done that. So my bad. But hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Beth Weiner. I am a board certified music therapist and the internship supervisor at Silverado Beverly Place in Los Angeles. So I'm just going to share nothing fancy, but I wrote a little PowerPoint to help guide us here. Share sound. And can y'all see that? Okay, thumbs up. Like there's silence. Okay. So I know we are shorter on time than is ideal. But before I start, I'd love to come back again if you guys have more specific questions about memory care. But I'd love to just give you sort of an overview of the company, music therapy here. And we have a really great internship program. So I'll let you in on that. About me, I'm originally from the East Coast. I got my bachelor's in music therapy at Florida State many moons ago. I've been board certified for 5 years now. And I did my internship at Primary Children's Hospital in Salt Lake City. So primarily a lot of medical experience and pediatrics. And then I went to work in hospice for about 4 years. And I loved working in hospice, and we still get a lot of exposure to hospice here in memory care as well. So that's definitely one of my passions. But in hospice, considering like the age demographic, of course, I was working with a lot of patients and families who were facing dementia and other, neurodegenerative conditions. So I also sort of fell in love with working with the dementia population as well. So this is just a little picture of our team when it was at its biggest. I'm there in the middle. To my right is Juliana. She is the internship director. And she's also the national director for Silverado for our Unique Nexus program, which I'll tell you a bit about, and just engagement in general. So she was the first music therapist here at Silverado. She started this program, and now she additionally has that national role, which is really neat. So big advocate for our training and the impact of music therapy in this setting. So very special place to work. And then to the left and right are two of our current senior interns, two of our current junior interns, and then an additional two who just graduated as well. So we have a 3-month rotation where it's structured really nice to have mentorship where interns who have been there for about 3 months will welcome a new set of two and provide that peer mentorship as well as senior interns. It's really great. But we are at Silverado celebrating our 25 years. So each community all across the country this year has been having these very fun anniversary parties, and ours at Beverly Place is actually coming up next week. So we invite professionals from the community, families. It's really fun to kind of celebrate all that we do at Silverado. So I'm actually not sure if they have a Silverado in Arizona. They just might. I should have looked that up. But if you're not familiar with the company, it is, a memory care company. They operate many different communities all over the country. But, it's our 25th anniversary. So it was started in the late 90s. And Silverado is considered an industry leader, not just because of their approach and their unique training, but also it's one of the first and really the most prevalent, I'd say, place that is a long-term care setting, but it is uniquely just for memory care. So typically you might see an assisted living that has another wing or one floor that's for memory care, where they provide that specialized, it's structured differently to meet the needs of those residents. But Silverado is just for memory care. So all of the staff are trained in that, orientation, all the engagement, everything is really structured very nicely to meet the needs of our residents with dementia. And Silverado, within the building itself, within the community, has different what we call neighborhoods. And each of those are uniquely designed to be for different stages of dementia, early to late. So our Nexus program is that unique approach that we have. So it's evidence-based, it was developed here, and we have these 5 pillars of brain healthy living, and everything is structured based on those 5 pillars that I'll talk a little bit about later with our music therapy programming. And lastly, we have a neat slogan or philosophy that's love is greater than fear. That was created by our CEO, Lauren Shook. And he's also an author. He writes books about memory care and innovation. But I think it's important to note because at Silverado, the culture is really special. Everyone is trained the same to be an expert in dementia care, and we all take that same responsibility no matter what we have going on. If a resident needs help or needs emotional support or really anything, we're fully willing to, drop whatever else we're doing because that's the most important thing. So there's a lot of compassion, a lot of patience. And based on other settings I've worked, I've found that, the different disciplines just work really well together because we're proud of the work that we're doing. So that's really neat. So this is Beverly Place. That's where I am right now, on the 2nd floor. There's actually 4 floors in our community, but we don't currently use the 4th one. So like I mentioned with the neighborhoods, each floor is its own neighborhood. So on our 1st floor, which we call our social floor, we have our mid-stage dementia. That's typically the level that the residents on the 1st floor are at. Then you go up to the 2nd floor that we have 2 neighborhoods in, the next level being enrichment. So that's our mid to later stage dementia. And then also on the 2nd floor, we have our sensory neighborhood, which is, highest acuity, latest stage. And so the focus of everything we do on each of the floors or neighborhoods looks really different. And it's just like in music therapy, the kind of approach across the board here, it's really tailored to those unique needs. That's what I love about it. And that's also why music therapy just fits really well in this kind of setting. That's really intentional about everything they're doing. Lastly, on the 3rd floor, we have the loft, which is really neat. The loft is beautiful, and that is for our earliest stage. So it's much more independent, apartment style living with a bistro kitchen, and primarily, they're still mostly independent with their activities of daily living, and there's outings and a lot of really fun things that our loft residents are able to do. So those are the folks that have just come, for the most part, from living at home independently, taking care of themselves. And so they just need a little bit of that support, but they're really not even receiving like caregiving. We just provide that structure and those opportunities to maintain their cognition and all those good things. So yes, this is where our music therapy program started. But Silverado does employ several board certified music therapists across the country. Here, Beverly Place being the largest program because we have our internship program. So let's see, our programming. Yeah. So I'm here, of course, providing services as well, but our interns and music therapists, we do a good mix of group work and individual work. The groups are really interesting because we have opportunities to innovate and create new programs. Since I've started, I've actually been here almost 5 months now, so not that long. It feels longer, but we've been able to, assess the needs of our residents in each of the neighborhoods and develop new types of groups, new programming. And that's been really exciting to sort of pilot things. For example, today, actually, on Fridays, we've piloted this new group on our social floor. So that's our mid-stage. It's a songwriting club. So we're promoting that social connection, the self-expression, and we're starting from scratch, really doing some blackout poetry and fill in the blank songwriting. And it evolved each week in a sequence to now we're, writing blues songs, and they're able to contribute original phrases, and that confidence is there because we have the same tight-knit group meeting each week. It's one of the groups we really look forward to because it's new, and so the interns and I are just trying to figure out the best way to sort of sequence those sessions. So we've got a lot of great variety in our programming and always room to innovate that I love. So if you're not too well versed in dementia, I have a feeling you guys are, but we have a largely aging population, a rapidly aging population. So certainly care settings are going to be even more so important than they are now. And there's going to be a lot more of a need, within our society to support individuals and their families experiencing dementia. And dementia being not a normal part of aging. And we're even seeing that, folks who are younger and younger are presenting with, earlier onset dementia and other neurodegenerative conditions. But typically, it's unique to the person, but we're going to see a decline in, their logic, reasoning, communication skills. In some cases, expressive or receptive deficits or challenges, visual changes, and even like balance and gait changes, that too. So that really affects everything, and it's a consideration, as music therapists, to be really mindful of what can we facilitate in our work to, both maintain but also keep working on those skills to keep them strong and support them as those declines eventually do happen. So yes, let me tell you about the pillars. So the 5 pillars, which seem pretty, it makes sense. It's nothing out of the ordinary, but we really make an emphasis in our programming to focus on the physical exercise, the stress reduction, the cognition, purposeful social activities, and support group style. The other unique thing about Silverado that differs from most kind of long-term care settings, not just that it's only memory care, but they always have a full-time MSW. And that really makes a difference because the MSWs also have internship programs, and they're providing support groups to our teams, and the families, and it makes a really big difference. But our music therapy groups as well, a lot of them are structured, especially the ones in the loft, in the earlier stages where the groups allow and have a lot of flexibility with that verbal processing, all those other great skills that we have that interns might not be using as much with our folks that are, more nonverbal or have challenges expressing themselves. So we do also get to touch on really all of those, which is neat. I think across the board, though, I put these few. There's certainly more goals, but we are always really emphasizing on that socialization piece. And, in music therapy groups, that doesn't just mean gathering all the residents and, okay, they're making music in a group, so we're working on socialization. We're really, really focused on getting to know each individual and how they express themselves, and being really intentional, even in a large group, like it could be 20, 30 people. So the responsibility there being able to hold down the whole group and work on those, more broad goals, but also really drawing out the strengths of each individual to facilitate them expressing themselves or them partnering with other residents and making those connections. We can really subtly do that in music therapy groups, right? Of course, there's self-expression, musically, non-verbally, verbally, stress reduction. We also do some mindfulness classes that are really neat. And as I'll touch on later, we have a lot of what we just call music and movement groups that are very physically active, very, very fun and enjoyable for families too, when they come and join our music and movement groups. Drum Fit is another neat group that we do both in the loft with our earlier stage, and on the social floor with our mid stage. And that's really neat because it's a structured wellness class where we use drums. And it really follows a structure, but each week there's a different theme on wellness. So we might be talking about interpersonal skills. We might be talking about self-care, healthy eating, different themes. And we facilitate the group in a really neat way for the residents to create their own rhythms, and we validate those rhythms and we all play them together. A lot of your, typical drumming group, like drum circle leading stuff, but the residents also love to lead the group too and get that social feedback too. But since we do it on the different floors, it looks completely different when we do it on in the loft versus our social floor, completely different. And so for the interns, that's a really great opportunity to not just be doing that kind of structured group leading, but acknowledging like the really big differences where we have the same goals, but we're going to get there a completely different way, given the acuity in our group. Another fun thing we just recently started up again, it was not really possible during the pandemic, but now we have the green light to have a choir. And so our choir group is our first floor, the social floor, as well as the loft. And truthfully, there aren't a lot of opportunities during the week. There are some, but not a lot, where we get to mix neighborhoods for experiences that we have. So the choir that we have once a week is so neat because it's an opportunity for the different neighborhoods to all participate in that meaningful experience. And the whole place is buzzing when we have choir. They really love it. And of course, as music therapists, we're providing that traditional choir structure, and there's all those great things that come from having a choir, but also we know all the residents really well. So we know what they struggle with. We know how they best respond to things, to simple things like prompting and cueing. And so we're able to kind of use our background and our skills to, again, facilitate those social connections, facilitate their expression, not just through singing, but in how we're kind of processing what's going on throughout the group. I mentioned our songwriting, and yeah, music and movement it's usually very fun and loud and exciting, and everybody gravitates towards those groups. And they look really different when we do them on the enrichment floor, our mid to late stage, and our social floor, our mid stage. Again, we've got residents that on the social floor are much more expressive. They can make choices, they're dancing, they're able to follow movement prompts. And on the enrichment floor, it may look something like, they can tap their feet, they can tap on a drum or play with hand under hand. But here, especially because we have that humanistic model, we're really making sure that our programming is tailored to meet their unique needs, but also validating and honoring even the tiniest responses. It's so great we can verbally process and have all these really insightful groups say in the loft, but on our other floors, our other neighborhoods where the residents have more decline and are unable to connect with us with such depth, it doesn't matter, right? So it might just be someone. We have one resident I'm thinking of in particular who, no matter what the group is, she tends to have flat affect. She is not very mobile, but she always taps her finger, and she will tap the exact rhythm of words in a song. And it's something that other people wouldn't notice, but because we are really focusing on what is 100% for that person, and it is that for that resident, and we honor it, and we want to validate that response that she's engaged with us, and finding different ways to connect with her, even if that's the only way she can communicate on her end. So it's just really important, and we really love and value all those tiny responses too. Now, there are also opportunities for one-on-one work. Our interns at the 3-month, about at the halfway mark, our interns take on a caseload of 5 residents. of their choosing. But we conduct that formal assessment, and they'll create a treatment plan and objectives, and do that formal documentation, and to document the progress and make changes accordingly. So yeah, it's quite a bit of group leading in our internship. And also, out of those 5 cases, 2 of them are actually going to be co-treatment. Other neat thing about Silverado is we have a rehab team in-house. So we have a gym on each floor, and we've got a really wonderful team of physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech, and even like a exercise physiologist who does wellness groups as well, which is really neat. So yeah, interns get to co-treat. And then at the end of their internship, they'll complete a case study project, a research project based on one of their cases. And they'll investigate maybe a certain intervention or a certain technique that they, think might have a certain impact on a specific goal. And so here are some, 2 pictures of my interns in our sensory room. We just had a little mini photo shoot the other day, so I want to show you that. Here are 2 of our most recent case study presentations from the 2 interns that just graduated. And so it is really unique to the intern, based on what they want to work on, and the research that they find that supports their hypothesis. So it is a nice formal research paper, which you guys fresh out of school are, still well versed in, I'm sure. Let's see. I don't have time. I was hoping to show you some little clips of co-treatment. Let's see. What else? We have our groups. Sorry, I'm just like seeing what we have. Okay. I have time. I'll go a little bit over. So this is just a little minute clip of these. Our former intern, Rachel, and she, for her case study, was doing co-treatment with a resident who has Parkinson's. And so his mobility was certainly challenging, and she did co-treatment with PT to work on balance. So this is a little clip from her working with him, session 1. Hopefully you can hear the sound.
Hold on to my elbows. Step forward a step. Stand up tall. We're going to step 4 left. We're going for 20. Ready? Step. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, feel you getting into the rhythm.
Oh yeah, I feel myself.
Okay, so that was, part of her case study. And then, so with co-treatment, one of the biggest things being entrainment. So a lot of those rhythm techniques, but one of my favorite things is how this intern wasn't just using rhythm, but she was, using her voice and actually singing the songs to provide that motivation. I think oftentimes, especially when I was in school and I'd see NMT inspired techniques and just music therapy and rehab, a lot of it is just like boom chuck on the guitar, but there's a lot of really neat things that you can do to be more flexible with your voice, your body language, the tone of your voice, that in the same way as rhythm can really provide that reinforcement for their clients. So let's see, I've only got a few more minutes here. But I did want to go over, just explain some of, the challenges that we face. I think people who aren't really familiar with working with dementia say, oh, that must be sad, or how do you do it? And, it's actually extremely rewarding. But some of the challenges we have as music therapists are, with the folks that have a difficult time expressing themselves, we might not be able to assess, what their preferences are musically and even otherwise, all sorts of preferences. Um, they might not have those expressive abilities that would enable us to make decisions in one way or another. So that can be challenging, making the best choice when you're not getting so much feedback. You might only be getting a touch of eye contact, right? And just going with those minimal responses too, and honoring those. They've got a wide range of abilities. So even though the neighborhoods are structured to, meet the needs that are sort of typical, or expected of a certain stage of dementia, we still have such a wide range of where the residents are at. So in our groups, it just looks really different. What we're expecting to be a successful group is going to be these types of responses from this person, these types of responses from this person, versus I want to get everybody clapping, I want to get everybody, following this rhythm or being able to improvise. It's not necessarily the case in a setting like this. So that can be challenging as a music therapist. And then, we have that functional decline of the residents too over time. So this is also something that I found to be the case working in hospice too, right? Where we as clinicians, not just music therapists, but other clinicians working with them, our job is to be successful and document meeting different objectives that we set for the people we're working with. But at the same time, those goals can be met and we could be having improvement in maybe the area of socialization and expression. We also over time are expecting, there's that likelihood that we have that functional decline. So we have things going up, but things going down, sometimes at the same time. So that can be tricky versus working in another setting, that might be more developmentally based. Maybe you're working with children who are going to gain skills, based on working with them, and you don't expect that decline to happen at the same time. And then, of course, there's some of those typical expected behaviors, right? Anxiety and agitation. In this setting, there's sometimes no other way for folks to express themselves, that they have an unmet need, and that might present itself as, manifest as a challenging behavior. So that, of course, is always something we have to navigate as music therapists. But then there's also the joys, being able to impact their day-to-day life. This setting is really neat because even though we're providing care, it's where they live. It's a home environment. So even in my office right here, and the offices of the other members of leadership and our music therapy internship office, it's in the same hallway as the residents' rooms. So, when we step out the door in the morning, there's somebody in their pajamas who just woke up and they're going to get breakfast. And when we're leaving for the day, there's people getting ready for bed, going to their room or eating dinner. And so I think that changes how you approach the work. It feels more cozy, and it's just nice to be, it's a privilege to be working where people live, right, in their home. It doesn't feel like some medical sterile environment whatsoever. And yeah, our job as music therapists here, we're getting to really reaffirm their values and their identity, which even in the best of places, because of how dementia progresses, to some degree, their preferences and their identity can get lost over time, because some of the things they're doing are so structured, or they might not be able to make choices. So whether that's figuring out what their preferred music is, but even more so how music therapists are able to better understand how the residents express themselves and how they respond to cueing and to prompts and encouragement. We get to know them on a very intimate level. So it's super special to be able to connect with them in that way, oftentimes in a way that the other disciplines here can't. But that's just kind of due to the nature of our work, that we can connect with them on an expressive level, right? And as I mentioned before, celebrating even the smallest responses. Oftentimes our interns will come back together after doing different sessions and we talk about those little wins, that we have a resident that, you know, might not communicate, but we got a smile, or they laughed, something very subtle, but it's actually really powerful in the context of those residents. So sorry I talk so fast. I did want to cover all of that, but how about, maybe 5 minutes if you guys have any questions, happy to answer them.
Anyone have any questions?
And one of my interns is here too. Come here, Kelsey. So I have a meeting with right now, but maybe Kelsey has a question or an answer for you if you have an intern question.
Anyone have questions about internship, about working in this setting in general? Anything about their experiences? Oh, that was off. Hello. Sorry. Okay. Anyone, any questions?
I'm not sure. I work with dementia patients right now, and I feel like I'm finally seeing a little bit of progress. And this based off the research that I've done, I know it takes about 4 to 6 weeks to help with sundowning, but I was wondering, what's your favorite intervention to do with that population?
Oh goodness, my favorite intervention. I mean, we actually, and maybe it's because I did this a lot in hospice, but I really love songwriting type things, song-based discussions, songwriting. I think the structure of it for residents that can do it is really powerful, because it's providing that predictable, safe medium where if I were to ask someone how they're feeling, or to tell me, what do you like about yourself, they wouldn't do it. But if we're looking in this context of a song, it's really neat to see how that can actually enable them to connect with what we're talking about. And then our songwriting group that we're really loving, something special is, we're keeping all of their names on the paper and seeing what they're filling in these fill in the blank songs, and some of the other structured songwriting experiences we're doing, and just to kind of see their handwriting and see what they write is really special, to save and show to the rest of our team as well. I think
Setting?
What's that?
Do you do that in a group setting?
Yes, we do it in a small group, but also one-on-one work, definitely. But the small group is with our mid-stage, that we were a little concerned that they might not be able to really do that, but we structured it in a way that they can, highly structured. And also we have multiple people. It's not one person leading the small group of say 6 or 7. We've got at least 3 of us. So we're partnering with 2 or so residents, kind of working on it, and then we all come together as a group and sing it or discuss our different responses, so then they also get that social feedback as well.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Sure. So I know you mentioned that 3 months in is when you give your interns like their own caseload. Is that when your case study starts, or do you have them start their case study right at the beginning of their internship?
So the first half is all the group work. So you start by shadowing, and then you gradually go to co-leading with a senior intern. And then eventually when you can be independent, you have that day-to-day schedule throughout the week where you're doing groups in all the different neighborhoods, very different groups. And then yes, at that midterm point, that is when, but of course everyone's like, for example, you're not at the midterm point, Kelsey, but you're already thinking about it. It's exciting because when the new interns come, they get to see the graduating ones present their case studies. So it plants all those seeds to get excited. But yes, it's once you start that caseload of 5 that you start to choose which one you might want to, develop a hypothesis and do some deeper research on like a specific technique or a specific intervention.
Okay. Any more questions? All right. I think nobody else has any questions. We want to thank you for coming and meeting with us over Zoom today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to come talk with us. We really appreciate it. If anyone has any further questions, are we okay to share your email with them?
Yes, highly encouraged. Happy to stay
Awesome.
connected and answer any questions you have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. We'll let you get going so you can have your meeting. But thank you again.
Email me. Bye.
Bye. Thank you. All right. I'm going to end the Zoom. So, thank you. It's just Savon.
I think
On
I
Zoom.
should try that since there's two of us at the facility. We can split up, and I'm thinking we can
No.
just do like fill in the blanks.
She's a
where
master's
my
secretary.
secretary and
Okay. Okay. We're going to keep this going. I'm going to stop the recording.